So I'm with Sue Serret from Trinity and SHOC today, the homeless charities, and you've popped in to tell us a bit about what you do and your new educational programme you've just launched.
Hi Steve, yes, and thank you for inviting me. I work for Trinity Homeless Projects, which is the largest provider for supported accommodation in the London Borough of Hillingdon. We've got 40 houses, so we provide housing for around 300 single homeless people and also 40 families with children in central Uxbridge. We've been delivering services for the last 27 years and provide support to people that are suffering the effects of homelessness to give them not just housing, but also support and coaching to make sure that they find out the reasons why they become homeless in the first place so that they never become homeless again.
And the programme you've launched goes to all the schools in the area?
Yes, that's right. The educational programme is called the Big Sit Out. At Trinity and SHOC, we want to be able to provide opportunities for people to learn about homelessness, to learn about how they can support us. But we have a value that we just don't want to take something for nothing. Clearly, we need finances to be able to support the project, but it's really important to us that we can add value back to our community. Our mission is to end homelessness. And if we're going to do that, we need to take the entire community with us. It's about changing hearts and minds and perspectives and shifting judgments so that what we're able to do is to create a community that will help us achieve our mission. And one of the ways in which we do that is by providing an educational programme free of charge to all primary schools. We do that by putting a pack together, which is completely free of charge to download. And it's got curriculum-linked lesson plans. We want to make this as easy for teachers as possible. They've got enough to do with delivering majority of the curriculum, but this gives a really good way for them to have some interesting and relative activities for children to do whilst they're learning about one of the worst social issues that we have in the 21st century today, but in a way which is engaging and fun, and a way in which teachers can help them to begin to understand about what's happening in their community.
And where can schools go to download those?
They can go to a website that we have specifically set up for this, and that's www.thebigsitout.com, and they can click the link and download it free of charge. The activities that the children are doing and the things that they're learning, once they've completed those, at the end of that week, they have an opportunity of bringing in a cardboard box and a sleeping bag, and they present their learning back to one another. And we've had a number of schools in the London Borough of Hillingdon that have delivered this, Ryfield Primary School and Glebe Primary School, and they've had just the best fun. They've presented things back like art and poems and songs and drama, and they've had debating classes where they are giving their opinions for and against. So it's giving children opportunity to be able to express their views, their opinions, their emotions and thoughts about homelessness, and also about understanding how important their input is, no matter how young they are, that social action doesn't have a minimum or maximum age.
Sue, why are you so passionate about homelessness? What got you into working for Trinity?
Well, Steve, I had a lived experience of homelessness when I was 15 years old. Things weren't going particularly well at home, so I left for a period of time. So for me, it was not about my experience, but also about the people that were around me at the time and just the sense of injustice. For me, thankfully, I had a family that cared about me and was able to support me so I could go back home. But for many of the people that I lived with for that period of time didn't have that kind of support. So from quite a young age, when I was 19 years old, I decided to do some voluntary work, and I studied to be a youth counsellor. I was working for a local church, so I became a detached youth worker. And I worked on the White City estates in London, and also spent a period of time volunteering on the Moss Side estate in Manchester. which in the early 90s was one of the most notorious estates in the UK. And I was working with sex workers, so I was going out between midnight and 5 in the morning. And we were taking like jam sandwiches and hot chocolate, chatting to the girls about sexual health and supplying condoms and things like that. But also befriending and talking to some of the girls who clearly wanted to get out of the kind of work that they were doing because some of the girls were being trafficked. So we had to be obviously very careful. It was quite a risky role. I was 19 years old. Obviously, we had lots of people around us. And there was a guy called George. George was a retired policeman, and he was our getaway car. So if anything happened, anything that we needed to get away quickly, the street that we were on had a gate and a fence. And just the short end of the alleyway, George would sit in his car with the engine running. I was chatting to one of the young girls who wanted to meet me the next day to talk about going back to London and to her family. She looked over my shoulder and I said, "Is he coming?" And it was her pimp. And she said, "Yes, you better go now." So I'm trying to put the lid back on my hot chocolate flask and walking quite quickly. The guy behind me is picking up pace. I thought, right, I've got to get through the gate. So I pushed the gate, but the gate didn't move. There was something behind it. And I thought, oh my goodness, what's going to happen? So I just threw my sandwiches and my hot chocolate over the fence. I've climbed over and I've landed on something soft. And it was a guy that was sleeping rough that had moved the biffa bin behind the gate that I was trying to get through and was sleeping there. So he jumped up. I was shocked. He clearly was even more shocked. We turned round. The guy was climbing over the fence. The guy that was rough sleeping said, "You better go." I've turned around and this guy has just thumped the pimp straight between the eyes. The pimp's gone down. He said to me, "You better run." I said, "No, come with me." Because when this guy wakes up, there's going to be problems. And I could hear other people coming up to the fence trying to find out what was happening. And so I got in the car with George and we left. And every single day for 2 months, I went back to the same place at the same time, and I've never been able to find this guy. So for me, it's been about wanting to come alongside people, not just to use my own experience, but for people who don't have the same opportunities as I did. And that's what I've done from volunteering. And then I came to volunteer at Trinity. It must be 21 years ago now. And I was working in financial services, had a very, very well-paid job, but decided that actually I felt like I needed to take the leap, not be fearful anymore, and actually take the plunge, immerse myself in doing what I'm passionate about and what I love. And to work in that environment full time is one of the most rewarding things that I've ever done. And it feels like my experience when I was a teenager was worth what I'm able to bring to the project and to the lives that are being changed now.
And how is Trinity funded?
Well, Trinity has been self-funded for the last 7 years, and for a small charity, that's quite unusual. Several ways we do that. We have Trinity furniture stores, one in central Uxbridge on Redford Way, and also one on Yedding Lane and Willow Tree Lane in Hayes. We sell really high quality second-hand furniture to members of the public. We pick up the donations free of charge and we sell those through the shop. And that generates, I think it's probably around 49% now of the total income needed to pay for staff, to pay for coaches, to support people in the 40 houses that we have. We also have opportunities like the Big Sit Out, where children get sponsored to sit in a box for a couple of hours and to do all these activities. We also have something for corporate organisations, which is called a Corporate Impact Day, where companies can come and immerse themselves in running the day service for one day to be able to sit alongside people that have come off the streets that morning, to be able to befriend them, to prepare breakfast and lunch, to support people whilst they access the showers and the laundry. So it's a very unique and rich environment which enables people to really learn about why people become homeless in the first place. And I say to people that the most important question to ask when you see somebody on the street is, what on earth was happening in your life that this is the best alternative open to you right now. And we can all make judgments. I've done it before in my life. But I think the best thing that we can do is give each individual the opportunity to tell their story, because I think that's where the learning is, and that's how, we will change perspective to enable us to be able to achieve our mission.
And do we know roughly how many homeless people there are in Uxbridge?
Currently, majority of people sleeping rough are in and around Heathrow. London Borough of Hillingdon is a massive area. In central Uxbridge here, I think the last count was 17, but we know that there are a lot more. It's probably double that. But of course, when people want to sleep at night, they hide away. They hide away in places where members of the public can't find them. Every couple of months, we work with the London Borough of Hillingdon Council to do a rough sleeper count. We have probably around 40 people each time doing that. But it's not enough people to be able to cover the entire area. So we know that there are areas that some people that are sleeping rough are going to, where we're not covering. So it would be amazing to have as many volunteers as possible to be able to help us with those counts, where we meet at midnight and then we split up into groups with different professionals from different areas, some from Trinity, some from the council, the police, mental health, some healthcare workers, drug and alcohol, immigration. So every volunteer would always be with a professional member of staff, where we're going out and we're chatting to people sleeping rough, finding out their story, how we can support them to make sure they know how to access housing, and also if there's anything else they need.
And what's the sort of typical time scale if you find someone who's rough sleeping? They go through your course, if you like, and they're found housing or work?
It could be anything from 6 months to 2 years. We have different staged accommodation depending on the support needs for each individual. There's stage 1 where it might be that somebody has come from a psychiatric ward, or they may have been rough sleeping for a long period of time. It might be somebody that is on a script. Maybe they've been struggling with addiction. They may have come straight from prison. So those guys would really need almost like daily support from one of our coaches. We then have stage 2 and 3, where people are far more independent. They have been accessing all sorts of support services. They might be in training, education, and would need less time and support from our coaches. We then are developing affordable housing for people who have no support needs anymore, so that they can move on and have long-term permanent tenancies with us. And that's the most tricky part, because the local housing allowance doesn't cover market rent. So all of the time we are working with landlords to encourage them to allow us to rent the properties from them. It's a no risk guarantee for them. We take the properties between 3 and 5 years. We have a maintenance department, we have gardening, we have coaches that interview and support people that move in. And so we maintain the entire house and we hand it back to them in the same condition that it was given to us. And equally, we pay the rent in advance every single month, regardless of whether the housing benefit has come through for us or whether the resident has paid their service charge. So it's absolute guarantee and no risk for the landlord that we are being tenants for them, and also being able to support people off the street.
That's great, Sue. Thanks for coming in and telling us about Trinity and the Big Sit Out. And once again, the website is thebigsitout.com. And is there a website for Trinity as well?
Yes, you can find out more information about working with us or how we support people at www.wearetrinity.org.uk, and that's for the London Borough of Hillingdon. SHOC, which stands for Slough Homeless Our Concern, is at sloughhomeless.org.uk.